Are you aware of the answer Christ gave to the question, what will be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? While Christ gave several signs, he gave one first, and that was in Matthew 24, verse 3 and verse 4, let no man deceive you. In verse number 5, he says, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Think about that. If people are going to come saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many, that means it is going to be a religious movement, even a Christian movement, quote unquote, Christian movement that will deceive the masses. In verse number 24 and verse number 25, Christ goes on to say, for there shall arise false prophets, false Christs, who shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they would deceive the very elect. However, I have told you before, so Christ gave the warning of a so-called Christian movement that would deceive the masses. But in verse 25, he says, I warned you before. And today, July 26th, you're being warned. So why is it that Carson, Candace Owens, Beck, and many Seventh-day Adventists are being deceived by Project 2025, Christian nationalism, and the common good? Today, we're going to address those points. And secondly, and this is very crucial, why is it that people are criticizing yours truly and saying, Pastor, for the past several days, you have been addressing Christian nationalism and Project 2025. You have conflated both. But Pastor, they're not the same entity. Do not mix them and conflate them. Well, today I have breaking news. They are connected. And if people can see that Project 2025 and Christian nationalism are the same, but different cover, different appearance, different veneer, by God's grace, we can set some people free. Beloved, you need something to relate to. Have you ever seen two brothers with different mothers? Two brothers with different fathers. And they may have different features, different size, nose, and shape of ears, and even different color of their eyeballs, different lips, different built. One might be stout, the other slender and tall, stout and short, different hair type, different features, but they are brothers, different mothers, but they are brothers, different fathers, but they are brothers. Why? Because of the DNA of the father. Why different mothers? Why? The same DNA of the mother while they have two different fathers. So while we have Project 2025 and Christian nationalism appearing to be separate entities, look at their policies, DNA, look at their policies, their talking points, look at their aims and goals. Let's get right into this today. Beloved, I'm going to begin with a video from Beck. He's actually exposing the dangers of Christian nationalism, and yet he promotes J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, who is a part of Project 2025, and promotes the same policies as Christian nationalism. By God's grace, we want to set some people free today. Clip one.
We'll pick something up from the media and the left, and they'll say, you're a Christian nationalist. Christian nationalism, I think, is becoming one of the most dangerous. It's one of those things you war game. How can we use this? And there is real Christian nationalism. There is the majority, I think, of people that don't understand the booby trap that is.
Yeah.
They also...
Do you see it? Christian nationalism is dangerous. It's a booby trap. Look at this now.
I'm glad to hear you say you are as concerned, because I hear some big people starting to say this.
Yep. Yep. Hey, when Donald Trump gets back in office, the gloves are off. And I said, no, guys, that's really, really dangerous.
Yeah.
Because
And that's the interview with Alex Newman. Here is Glenn Beck now promoting J.D. Vance. And he actually stated that J.D. Vance could be the next president. You heard me correctly. And that's why he was chosen by the Trump team. He might be the next president. You mean J.D. Vance? That is a part of Project 2025, Heritage Foundation, the Federalist Society, Christian Nationalism, Roman Catholicism, Common Good, be the next president? Here it is.
You think this is going to be one of those things that allows Donald Trump to continue his legacy? J.D. Vance is one of the most MAGA senators out there right now.
He's in clip 2.
Pick that I think, it was very important for the president to pick the next president, really, because you have 4 years now, and you can't get anything done in 4 years. It's almost impossible to do it in 8 years. But if J.D. Vance plays his cards right and Donald Trump does what I hope he's going to do, and restores the Constitution and the constitutional powers, I think we could be looking at 12 years. And
12 years, which means Trump for the upcoming 4 and J.D. Vance for the next 8. That's why he was chosen. Of course, God removes kings. God sets up kings, Daniel 2, not man.
You could interpret this, as I do, as Donald Trump saying, I know I'm only going to be there 4 years. Everything you say I'm going to do about never leave the office is not true. I have 4 years, and that's why I picked him. I think it was a really good move.
You think about that. And yesterday and the day before, we exposed the policies, the agenda of J.D. Vance, Kevin Roberts from Heritage, and Project 2025. Here is what the Bible teaches. In Amos chapter 5, verse 18 and verse 19, it's talking about the last days. And the Bible says, as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into the house for refuge, for safety, leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him. What's the connection here? So you're running from one danger and run into the other. Glenn Beck and others, they are against Christian nationalism, but now they're supporting Project 2025, J.D. Vance, Kevin Roberts, and the others. The same policies belong to both entities. Here's Candace Owens about what she supports, Project 2025.
I am certain that all of you saw, just like I did, and I didn't even know what it was, the left freaking out about Project 2025, right? So much so that Trump came out and said, I don't even know what Project 2025 is. I don't know if he disavowed it explicitly, but he essentially said, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. The main Project 2025 document outlines 4 main aims.
Okay.
Restoring the family.
I'll come back to those 4 main aims later on in this presentation. But as you can see, nothing is wrong, she says, with Project 2025, which I'll play later on. They're supporting it. If you were to ask Candace on record, do you support Christian nationalism? She might say, no, I don't. But yet promoting Project 2025. Don't take my words for it. I'll play that clip in its entirety. I don't give it everything at the same time.
I am sure. I am
building
certain
a case.
that-
Let's move on here. This is the words of Ben Carson promoting J.D. Vance, saying it was a really good pick, excellent pick for Trump.
The last administration, your thoughts on this pick? You served with Vice President Mike Pence.
Yes.
Very different pick, very different ideology, very different guy, frankly.
Yes, well, I was very pleased with this pick. I read J.D. Vance's book.
Very pleased with this pick. At this point, I'm going to segue into this interview. This is Tucker Carlson, published an interview on yesterday on his platform. He interviewed Dr. Ben Carson. Now, Dr. Ben Carson, of course, was once the HUD secretary in the Trump's cabinet administration between 2016 and 2020. He also, this is Dr. Carson, he also claims to be a Seventh-day Adventist. Well, Here it is. He supports the Bible and the Ten Commandments being placed in public schools. Here it is. Give that to me. That's okay. Look at the connection between J.D. Vance, Trump, and Kevin Roberts. There he is on the screen. Kevin Roberts, Project 2025, and the Heritage Foundation. Carson.
You saw all of the protests that occurred recently when the governor of Louisiana said we're going to have the Ten Commandments in the schools. And the governor of Oklahoma and the legislature said we're going to teach Bible and the Ten Commandments. Oh, no, you can't do that. This is horrible. Separation of church and state.
What?
You know, the Constitution says nothing about separation of church and state, by the way. That's been distorted tremendously.
So, friend, based on that statement on record by Dr. Ben Carson, who professes to be a Seventh-day Adventist, what does he believe about the U.S. Constitution and the principle of the separation of church and state? Why would he raise that objection? Because he knows that the promotion of the Bible in public schools, not private Christian schools, in public school, he knows it is a union of church and state. Bringing the Ten Commandments into public schools is also a union of church and state. That's why he raised the objection, saying, people are saying this. Then he said, in the U.S. Constitution, those words are not there. It's a distortion of the U.S. Constitution, which means, by implication, he does not believe in the separation of church and state. There it is. He blasts the separation of church and state during his run for president. There it is, friends. And the point I want to drive home is this, that Dr. Ben Carson claims to belong to the SDA denomination. And yet that SDA denomination, based on its founders and founding principles on the Bible, believe in a separation of church and state. So the question is Dr. Ben Carson really a Seventh-day Adventist Christian who believes in the Bible? Does the Bible teach the separation of church and state? Let's forego the SDA for now. Does the Bible teach a separation between church and state? Yes. Mark chapter 12, verse 13 through verse 17. Romans chapter 13, verse 1 through verse 11. So for Dr. Carson to make this statement, he's actually rejecting the Bible. That's it. And number two, the founding principles of the church movement he claims to belong to. Here is one of the prominent church fathers of the SDA movement. He reveals to us the way in which we can get children to become moral. Do that in the home, at church, not in the public square, or else the state become the church. And that would nullify the principles of the U.S. Constitution. Here it is. This is one of the founding members of the SDA movement that Dr. Carson claims to belong to. This is an inspired messenger of the Lord. And what does Sister White write? First sentence, while I do not see the justice nor right in enforcing by law the bringing of the Bible to be read in the public schools, let us not criticize these people. Why? Because God can still work in spite of them doing that which is injustice and that which is wrong. Mercy. So this is Dr. Ben Carson promoting injustice, promoting that which is wrong. Is that clear? All right. And then we're told the last two sentences, red words underlined, that when we see this agitation of the question of enforcing Sunday by law and the teaching of religion in the public schools, the end of all things is at hand. Do you know that Dr. Ben Carson should have been the one setting the example among those who he rubbed shoulders with? Here he is. But yet he's promoting that which is wrong, unbiblical. He went on to state, what is wrong with thou shalt not kill, steal, commit adultery? Here is his justification for the 10 Commandments to be actually promoted in public school. Here he is.
Been distorted tremendously. But I like to ask these people, exactly why don't you want the 10 Commandments to be taught? What is wrong with thou shalt not kill? What's wrong with thou shalt not steal? Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not envy. Honor your parents. What's wrong with those things? And of course, they never have a good answer for what's wrong with them because there is nothing that's wrong with them. And,
Beloved, have you ever heard the statement, if it's not broken, don't what? Don't fix it. Listen attentively to Dr. Ben Carson's words. What is wrong with the last 5 commandments? The last 6 rather. Honor father and mother. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not covet. His words, don't envy. What's wrong with that? We need 10 commandments in the public schools. Here's my point. Presently, does the civil government have jurisdiction and prosecute people who kill, who lie, and the lies become a crime? Perjury, yes. You covet to the point wherein you harm somebody, yes. So what's the point? The civil government already and presently control those 6 commandments. That's clear. If it's not broken, why try to fix it? And what Ben Carson and Candace Owens need to understand, the movement that they are a part of, pushing 10 commandments into the public square, into public schools, they're not only saying this for the last 6 commandments, but the first 4. The first 4. That's the issue. The first 4. Go back and read Romans 13, verse 1 through verse 11, and focus on verse 5 through verse 11 with Mark 12, verse 13 through verse 17. In an upcoming presentation, I'll cover what it means for the civil government to actually have jurisdiction over thou shalt not kill and steal and commit adultery. What does that mean, by the way? Do you mean if I commit fornication, adultery, the civil government can come in and prosecute me? What does that mean? Lies begin in the thoughts, right? What does that mean? So if I tell Jared a lie, can the civil government come and put me in prison? What does that mean? Stay tuned. This is Ben Carson. Yesterday was not the first time he made a statement. He made that same statement at Faith and Freedom. Here he is, in the month of June.
Aren't you glad that yesterday the governor of Louisiana signed into the law, put the 10 Commandments back in the schools? Anybody who wants that done, ask them this question. What exactly is wrong with thou shalt not kill, and thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not envy, and thou shalt not commit adultery, and thou shalt not bear false witness, and honor your parents? What's wrong with those things? They never really...
May I ask you a question? How many commandments did Oklahoma, Louisiana say they must put in all public schools? Did they say 6 or 10? Come on, talk to me. Did they say 6 or 10? So why is Dr. Carson, the intellectual giant, world-renowned brain surgeon, cannot decipher? They say 10. I'm over here over again saying 6. Makes no sense. Here's Candace Owens. And now I'm going to put the nail in their coffin. Watch this. Here she is now, the full clip.
I am certain that all of you saw, just like I did, and I didn't even know what it was, the left freaking out about Project 2025, right? So much so that Trump came out and said, I don't even know what Project 2025 is. I don't know if he disavowed it explicitly, but he essentially said, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. The main Project 2025 document outlines 4 main aims: restoring the family as the centerpiece of American life, dismantling the administrative state, defending the nation's sovereignty and borders, and securing what they believe to be a key to a good life, which is found primarily in family, marriage, children, Thanksgiving dinners, and the like, the person who wrote this writes, and above all, in religious devotion and spirituality. What am I supposed to dislike about this? So if I run for president, I want you guys to know in the future, we are going to be doing Project 2025. We're going to restore families. We're going to restore faith.
If I run for president in the future, I'm going to be promoting Project 2025. Please save this video. What am I to dislike about this? You see, what Candace Owens and others need to understand. When the devil is going to deceive, he always mix, conflate, insert enough good in the poison to deceive and to destroy. How do you kill rodents? If you want them to eat whatever thing. You put as a bait what the rodents like to consume, and you put the poison in it. What's wrong with the other point? Nothing, Candace. But did you catch they want to legislate faith and religion? And what faith does she belong to? Recently, is the Roman Catholic faith, along with her husband, based on what the media says. Now, don't take my words for it. Let's hear now from Project 2025 who they are now promoting: Dr. Ben Carson and Candace Owens. Let's also hear from Kevin Roberts, even Jonathan Berry, Heritage. Let's see if they're connected to Christian nationalism and what they are promoting. Here is it. Here it is. This is now
all the 10 commandments.
A Christian nationalist. Hear what he says.
All the 10 commandments must be legislated. What we've done is we thought the second.
Only 6, right? Or 10, he said.
All the 10 commandments must be legislated. What we've done is we thought the second table of the law. So second table meaning commandments 5 through 10, the commandments of God that pertain to our horizontal relationship with our neighbor, like don't steal, don't murder, these kinds of things. We think that should be legislated by the civil magistrate, but the first table of the law, not that. But that's not true. And I'm not just talking about Old Covenant Israel in the Old Testament. You look at King Alfred, you look at Constantine, you look at Richard.
I'll come back to that. They want all 10 to be legislated.
Aren't you glad that yesterday the governor of Louisiana signed into the law, put the 10 commandments back in the schools?
Stop right there. Here it is now. This is Ben Carson. He's also an author of Project 2025. Look at number 15. Take a look at this now. This is Jonathan Berry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Connor.
Mr. Berry, you're the co-author of Project 2025, the labor section. Am I correct?
The lead author on that section, correct.
Go down this list.
And there he is, second from the left. He's speaking. Hear what he says now.
The proposal that's in our book is amending the basic federal overtime law, Fair Labor Standards Act, to require that overtime be paid for all work done on the Sabbath. But it would be an encouragement and inducement to rest, but really to kind of coordinate commercial activity for the other 6 days.
So by law, coordinate commercial activity on the other 6 days. Ben Carson, you claim to be a Seventh-day Adventist. and you signed on to Project 2025. Do you realize that Jonathan Berry, the lead author of Project 2025, is actually saying, listen attentively here. The civil magistrate, the government Caesar, can legislate and tell the people how to worship, on what day to rest on what day to worship. Sunday. That's Project 2025. What does Christian nationalism also promote? Caesar can legislate not only the last 6, but all or 10, even the first 4. These are 2 brothers that belong to the same mother. They may have different fathers. 2 brothers with the same father but different mothers. Their policies are the same. So what will you say now? I am being disingenuous, or are you the one who is ignorant? Anybody who continues to support Project 2025 from this moment forward, Christian nationalism, heritage, federalist, Ben Carson, Candace Owens, who is the next one? Glenn Beck, even Seventh-day Adventist. That means you are willfully ignorant. You are stubborn and rebellious. You are fighting against the U.S. Constitution and against the Bible, God's word. Let's move on here. So now, this is Berry's statement in Project 2025. While he says the civil magistrate will enforce Sunday worship by law, Sunday rest. They will give allowance Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. But his words say there's going to be a coordinated law so everybody can work on the next 6 days. Question. That means, are they going to add a separate day to the week? How can they give us Sabbath off and say Sunday rest by law, but everybody must work 6 days a week? There are only 7 days in a week. Are they going to add just a random day to the week? 8 days per week? Listen.
The first commandment is have no other gods before me. That is a private matter. That's something that's in the heart. Having other gods privately in the heart before the true triune God will eventually cause you to break commandments 2, 3, or 4. It'll cause you to profane the Sabbath externally, outwardly, right? Not keeping the Sabbath holy. The distinction as it pertains to the civil magistrate and in which of the laws of God should he actually enforce? There's a private commandment in the first table, namely commandment number 1, and a private commandment in the second table, namely the last, commandment number 10. And both of these will become public if unchecked, and that's where the civil magistrate steps in.
That's clear. That's Christian nationalism. Okay. Are they the same as Project 2025? The civil government can step in and force you to obey the 10 commandments, the first 4, even Sunday worship. That's Christian nationalism. What about Project 2025? Don't take my words for it. Here's Kevin Roberts. Do you see that? Who is that? That's Kevin Roberts. That's Heritage Foundation. That is Project 2025. What is he promoting? And Heritage. He says the government can punish disturbers of religious worship and Sabbath breakers. What Sabbath is he talking about? Headline, Sabbath breakers. Look at the blue words. That's Sunday. How are you going to tell me I'm being disingenuous? I'm spreading fake news when I told you Project 2025 and Christian nationalism are brothers. They may have different fathers or different mothers, but they have the same DNA. There it is. They can penalize, put people in prison, fine you financially. If you break the Sabbath, then it says, if you tell other people not to go to church on Sunday, then you are a lawbreaker and you can be prosecuted, fined, and persecuted. So imagine when Project 2025, J.D. Vance, Heritage, the Federalist Society, Christian Nationalists, when they enforce Sunday rest, Sunday worship by law, and faithful Sabbath keepers say, no, we will honor God's seventh-day Sabbath, and then tell people not to rest, to worship on Sunday based on the Bible. What will the government, what will J.D. Vance and others, Kevin Roberts and others, Jonathan Berry and others, Project 2025, what would they call us? Lawbreakers. You see it now? Now we're in the public square. And this is what Ben Carson supports. I'm going to say this. Have you ever seen people who actually signed an agreement but did not read the agreement? And that's why colloquially we say, did you read the fine print? When there is an important document to sign, the person on the other hand would tell you, make sure you run this by your attorney, because once you signed it, it's law. This man signed on to Project 2025, and this same movement would take away his rights if he remains and become and remain a faithful Sabbath keeper. Persecute his own people in the SDA faith. We're told in GC 592, those who honor the Bible Sabbath, that they will be denounced as enemies of law and order. Do you see it now? So what would they call us? Enemies of law and order. Let's continue.
I don't think Congress has.
Now, who is this speaking? This is Jonathan Berry, the lead author of Project 2025, the segment FLSA. All right? Understand what he's about to say now. The man is about to say, the states must regain power because the states can legalize religion, even Sunday worship. That's what he said. Is that not Christian nationalism? Here it is.
I don't think Congress has the authority to mandate like a national closing on the Sabbath. That was always a state decision to do that. But let me add, it was always a state decision to do that.
They did it,
and yeah, I'm not saying this practice was uniform, homogenous, whatever, but very, very widely spread, and only recently in the last few decades have most states moved away from this.
Mercy. So what is the objective of Project 2025? The states must regain power to legislate Sunday rest, Sunday worship by law, as it was in the past, Sunday blue laws. Here it is, my friends. Don't miss this.
But yeah, the First Amendment.
Who is this on the screen? On the screen now, this is a Christian nationalist. His name is Stephen Wolfe. He will say the very same thing. Two brothers, different mother.
But yeah, the First Amendment with regard to religion, it constrains Congress. That's the original intent. So that's why the states had a hand and a part in religion. That's why there were Sabbath laws, there were blasphemy laws at the state and local levels.
Jonathan Berry, Project 2025. States can legalize Sunday worship by law. Stephen Wolfe, Christian nationalist, in the very same thing. By the way, let's confirm that Stephen Wolfe is a Christian nationalist. Here it is. That book in the center is his book. Stephen Wolfe at the bottom, at the top, promoting Christian nationalism. Is the point clear now? Is that the nail in a sure place? The nail in their coffin. And what is Trump promoting? Returning power to the states. Do you see that now? Do you see that now? Arizona State Senator, talk to us.
We should be debating a bill requiring every American to attend a church of their choice on Sunday to see if we can get back to having a moral rebirth.
I want to rescue people who are now a part of the Christian nationalist movement. Those who are in Project 2025. Rescue them before it's too late. Ben Carson, Candace Owens, Glenn Beck, SDAs, and others. Here it is. Trump, what's your objective? Return power back to the states. And how was the sodomy law? In June 26, 2015, it became law because it began state by state. So how will the Sunday law, the mark of the beast, become a fruition state by state? Listen what Trump said about power.
Now allowed to use it. I get in there, you're going to be using that power at a level that you've never used it before. It's going to bring back the churchgoer. I mean, you have to see. I don't like the charts when I see charts where they're going in the wrong direction. We don't like that. We're going to bring it back. And I really believe it's the biggest thing missing from this country. It's the biggest thing missing. We have to bring back our religion. We have to bring back Christianity in this country.
How? Power back to the states. And friends, remember, Project 2025 says the state must receive back its power to legalize Sunday. Christian nationalists are saying the same thing. What happened to SDAs? What happened to Sabbath keepers in America in the 1800s? When the states legalized Sunday, we were thrown to the chain gangs. It's right there, friends. Please pause the video and mentally consume these paragraphs and weep as you see what happened and what is coming again. And history, the Bible says, will be repeated. America will speak as a dragon. And this is what Ben Carson, a professed Sabbath keeper, is promoting through Project 2025. He can no longer claim ignorance. He can't. Because this message is a nail in a sure place. It mentions the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And even other SDAs. There are SDA platforms, and they call me a dreadventist because they are Trump supporters. SDAs now. They are Project 2025 supporters and call me dreadventist. Why? Because I protest against their politic meddling, which is politics. I hope they learn from this and wake up and leave Babylon alone. Watch this, friends. Let's see what's coming. Ben Carson is promoting this. This is Project 2025. Hear what he said.
I don't think Congress has the authority to mandate like a national closing on the Sabbath. That was always a state decision.
Okay, watch this now. Always say what? Oh, I didn't put the nail right. Let me use my hammer, remove that nail, and drive one more in a sure place.
I don't think Congress has the authority to mandate like a national closing on the Sabbath. That was always a state decision to do that. But let me add, it was always a state decision to do that.
They did it.
and yeah, I'm not saying this practice was uniform, homogenous, whatever, but very, very widely spread, and only recently in the last few decades have most states moved away from this.
So this is Project 2025. Listen now to Christian nationalists. Seventh-day Adventists would not be accommodated, not tolerated. Here it is now.
In a pluralist society, if you reinstate blue laws, then you would have to outlaw
Read
sports.
what? State blue law. The same thing you heard from Jonathan Berry. Here it is now.
In a pluralist society, if you reinstate blue laws, then you would have to outlaw sports teams on Saturday in order to accommodate Jews for the Sabbath, or Muslims, Seventh-day Adventists. So how do you kind of thread that needle?
Well, we're not obligated to satisfy every group under the sun. You have to make these judgments.
Do you see what they are promoting? Next clip. Come on.
From him. And then you also want to make it easy for Christians to do Christian things. I mean, that's the main rationale given by courts for Sabbath laws. We want to make it very easy for and make it clear to everyone which Sabbath we're in favor of. That's the religion we want to be perpetuated.
We want.
So both groups are saying the very same thing. I'll give you one more.
I do think the state legislature and
I do think what? The state's legislature.
I do think the state legislature in Colorado, where you're living, ought to limit, or at least the local Colorado Springs City Council ought to prohibit youth sports leagues from having practices or games before 2 o'clock on Sunday. This is a serious problem now.
Yes.
For church-going families. Their kids get real fired up about sports, and they're on travel teams, and next thing you know, they're not going to church anymore.
That's what they're pushing. And friends, at this juncture, I'm going to share with you now how Ben Carson is also promoting common good.
All the 10 commandments must be legislated. What we've done is we thought the second table of the law, so second table meaning commandments 5 through 10, the commandments of God that pertain to our horizontal relationship with our neighbor, like don't steal, don't murder, these kinds of things. We think that should be legislated by the civil magistrate, but the first table of the law, not that. But that's not true. And I'm not just talking about Old Covenant Israel in the Old Testament. You look at King Alfred, you look at Constantine, you look at Richard the Lionheart, you look at Duke Godfrey, who chopped a Turk in half diagonally with one swing of the sword. These guys, they legislated both tables of the law. That's where all the prosperity comes from. Idolatry is the fountainhead of the stream. You cannot have an idolatrous people and yet somehow have a moral people.
Mercy. So if you keep the 7-day Sabbath and not Sunday, you are an idolater. What he's promoting is if you don't bow down to Sunday, we are going to kill you. That's what the man is promoting. That's Christian nationalism. The same as Project 2025. Now, I'm going to repeat a line he just said. The man said, as church and state unite, that's the only way we can have prosperity. Here it is again. Listen.
Diagonally with one swing of the sword. These guys, they legislated both tables of the law. That's where all the prosperity comes from. Idolatry is the head.
And that's what Sister White says. Sunday will become the law of the land to bring back, to restore divine favor and temporal prosperity. Imagine what's coming. If you don't worship on Sunday, so God can bless America financially because the economy is now destroyed, you must be killed. That's what's coming. And what they're promoting is what America was founded upon. That is the total opposite. Here it is.
When the founders talked about separation of church and state, they had a historical context that we really lack.
Reverend Eddie Hyatt, author of Pilgrims and Patriots.
Church and state was merged together, and the church used the power of the state to enforce its doctrines and practices.
He says certain governments used deadly force against dissenters who wanted to worship in their own way.
Those people were persecuted, burned at the stake. Some had their tongues cut out. The founders did not want that kind of Christianity.
Yeah. Here is Ben Carson now. What is he promoting? He's going to make a mention that the reason why he promotes Project 2025, Trump and others is because they stand against a one world government. And yet he's promoting Project 2025, Christian nationalism, that's promoting what? A one world religion, Sunday worship by law. Here it is. Don't take my words for it.
Want to fundamentally change us. Do you know why they need to fundamentally change us? Because the United States of America is the major obstacle to one world government. We're the one.
Clap him. Yes, a round of applause. Here he is now on Tucker on yesterday, promoting common good. I couldn't believe what I heard. Friends, common good is a one-world religion. Common good is a one-world government. Here it is.
And you think about the early days in our country when you had communities, sometimes of 50 or 100 families. They came from different areas of the world. In many cases, they could barely talk to each other because they spoke different languages. But they understood a concept called the common good. That's language that you see in much of the writings of our founders. The common good. What's good for all of us, not what's good for the Polish section or the German section or the African section, but what's good for everybody. And
Ben Carson, Project 2025. Christian nationalists will say what's good for all of us is Sunday worship by law. The man just said common good, not what is good for each one of us, but collectivism. Common good is collectivism that trumps individualism. That's what he's promoting. I couldn't believe my ears. The same thing the Pope promoted before the joint session of Congress, common good. And what is common good? Now, hold on. Friends, when I prayerfully do these research, and I come before you by God's grace, but I already know what the objections and the retorts are going to be. Pastor, yes, the Roman Catholics, the Pope, Jesuits have their version of common good. I don't believe that's the version that Ben Carson was actually promoting. It's another version. Well, there are only two versions. Roman Catholics, Jesuits, and the Christian nationalists. Project 2025, apostate Protestants. I'll give you both versions. And you tell me which one he was talking about. And exhorting. This is the Pope's version. This is common good. I do not have time to waste your time and God's time. Here it is. What is common good, you Pope and Popery? Giving up your individualism. Not what is right for you, best for you, but what is right and best for everyone. That's globalism. That's mob rule. That's communism. Here it is now. Okay, here's a second version. Do you know what's on your screen right there? At the podium, that's J.D. Vance. He was present at a Project 2025 meeting. This is Roman Catholics meeting. And what was the title? Restoring a Nation, that's in red. The common good in the American tradition. Catholic version and the Protestant version, or apostate Protestants. And who does Carson support? J.D. Vance. Look at this now. And what is that common good? From that meeting, it says ban commerce on Sundays. It's right there in red. Religion in the public schools. Sunday rest, Sunday worship. Blue words. It mentions J.D. Vance. That's it, friends. Look at the black words in the middle underlined. Common good. They says they want the civil magistrate to enact liturgies and Sabbath laws. Which Sabbath? Sunday worship. Because they are going to say, come over here, they're going to say, America, what they will say, America was founded with Sunday worship. And that's good for all of us. So common good, give up Sabbath worship. J.D. Vance, what is he promoting? The Roman Catholic social teaching. This is the optimal state for America. That's what he said right there, friends. And what is that common good? It is a Catholic social teaching and vice versa. This is what he's promoting. It's Sunday worship by law. I couldn't believe my ears and eyes when I saw Ben Carson make that statement. Common good. The Catholic version and the apostate Protestant version. Because Project 2025 is a house that has in it Roman Catholics and also apostate Protestants. even Jews under one head. That's Heritage Foundation. That's where we are. May I ask you a question as I close? And by God's grace, on tomorrow, I'll give you part 2 on this, part 3, part 4. May I ask you a question? Is the Sunday movement still in darkness? Those in the studio just gave us the proverbial and we know what that means contextually. Is the light now shining bright? What's in front of us? And let me come full circle. Matthew 24, my opening scripture, verse 24, there will arise false Christs, false prophets that will show great signs and wonders. If it were possible, they would deceive the very elect. An apostate, counterfeit Christian movement is deceiving many who claim to be Christians, who claim to be the elect, who claim to be the remnant. Verse 25, Matthew 24, I've told you before. I've warned you. Let today be a warning for all of us. Do I know Christ for myself? If I do not know Jesus, if I am not implementing the 5 keys of survival, I'm unprepared for what is about to hit this nation as an overwhelming surprise. Don't you dare say I'm going to run and leave America, because whatever happens in America will go wherever you are. If America sneezes, they say the world catches the flu. That's where we are. It's a grassroots movement, and the leaders will actually vote. The stage is set. And that's what we spoke about on yesterday. The stage is set. Every earthly support is going to be cut off. Quickly implement those 5 keys of survival and share them with others. By God's grace, I'll see you on tomorrow. I'm your host, Andrew Henriquez. For those of you who don't know, the trumpet gave a distinct sound today. This was not a flute or a fiddle. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, we begin our true Sabbath service. Like, comment, share the video so others can be blessed. The Lord definitely is soon to come. The mark of the beast is right upon us. Get ready. Remain ready. Get others ready. And the protest continues.